So very good morning to all of you. I hope that you have been enjoying the entire learning process till date. For the last 2 days, we have been highlighting several important aspects related to environmental management, particularly in the context of the running a manufacturing system. Okay, so as you are aware that there are different kinds of manufacturing systems, but irrespective of the type of manufacturing systems you are dealing with, the environmental management, the problems, you cannot avoid. You can't say that my manufacturing system is technology intensive, very sophisticated one. So why do you bother about environmental management? Okay. So we are supposed to produce products, and we have a, our product is having a brand name. So why do you bother? So this is one kind of response you may get. So obviously you must have the ability to convince the management that without environmental performance management considered, you cannot have the sustainability in your performance. So now, so environmental management system has been explained in many ways, in fact. Okay, so hundreds of approaches, hundreds of case studies, hundreds of problems they have been dealing with, the researchers, practitioners, and the concerned persons. Okay, there could be some personal initiative also. So the first, as I have been telling you, that environmental management systems, if you want to create, essentially, you may not get any particular theory. There are certain hypotheses you may assume, okay, and you may have your own experience, but you, in order to say develop a foolproof say framework for environmental management system, what you need, that you need the knowledge, and that's why you need to refer to the literature first. That is a necessary condition. Okay, so today during these lecture sessions, I will be highlighting basically the kinds of approaches on several aspects of environmental management that you come across in the literature. Okay. So the title of my presentation is Environmental Performance Measurement and Evaluation for Manufacturing Organizations. A review and reflection. That means what is available in the literature. Okay. Let us go through and get an idea. So my lecture outline will be like this. What is environmental pollution? Okay. How do you define it in explicit and clearly understood terms? Importance of environmental performance measurement and evaluation. Okay. Classification of environmental performance measurement and evaluation. There are many approaches. Can you classify them? There could be direct approaches, there could be indirect approaches. Okay, so both are to be considered. Factors affecting the strategies of industries, okay, vis-a-vis environmental management, and how to improve the performance of the industries. So these are the topics I am just going to present. So a large number of topics I have included. So at least you first must know that what are the issues to be considered, and against each issue you need to study the relevant tools, techniques, approaches in depth. Then only you can you go to your workplace, and then you can you are in a position to develop the design and develop an integrated framework for environmental management system. So, what is environmental pollution? Environmental pollution is the introduction of contaminants. You have heard this term, contaminants, into the natural environment that causes adverse change. This is the definition. I repeat, environmental pollution is the introduction of contaminants. So, you need to define in a given context what are these contaminants. You have to define them, you have to identify them into the natural environment. So, what is this natural environment we are talking about? That causes adverse change. That means significant change with a detrimental effect. Adverse in the sense the detrimental effect to flora, fauna as well as the human beings. That is the bottom line. How do you define the Mother Earth? What are the features of Mother Earth? That's why life is sustainable. Getting my point? Nowadays, industrial pollution from large, medium and small scale manufacturing industries, there are hundreds and thousands of industries, has become a major public attention. The people have become aware that they are affected, their health is deteriorating all over the world. That means it is, as I have already pointed out, that the problem you are dealing with, that is essentially a global problem, but the limitation is that there is no boundary line. So, there may not be any solution at the national level. Getting my point? The entire world is interlinked, particularly with reference to this particular the aspect. So, all over the world, as it leads to global warming and climate change. Is it okay? You are aware of, and it's a real problem, it's a real threat. Is it okay to the mankind, the global warming and the climate change? So, you know what is the definition of environmental pollution. Now, the importance of environmental performance measurement and evaluation. Now, if you obviously this question have all been raised, and you must have the specific answers against this question. Then why do you consider this? The first one is achieve sustainable manufacturing. What do you mean by sustainability?
Balance.
Any example? Can you put forward few examples? Sir, this is the system. I call it a sustainable system. This is another system. I don't call it a sustainable system. Do you have any examples with you? Just you note down. Suppose I ask you to identify 5 systems, whatever it is, 5 systems not considered sustainable, 5 other systems. I want to know your viewpoints, in fact. So, how do you define sustainability? 5 more the systems which are considered to be sustainable. So, just break your head and try to identify those systems. Everybody knows, in fact, right? Whatever comes to your mind, let us you write them on the papers. Achieve sustainable manufacturing. That means today you say this is my, there are 2 aspects. One is the quantity aspect, second one is the quality aspect also, right? So, suppose that today you say your capacity is 1000 units, right, and you produce 2 capacity, right, and you start just selling it, right, and then you are getting responses from the customers, right. whenever you get some sort of the complaints regarding the environment effect, okay. So what do? That means you have the system inbuilt. That system takes care of, okay, these environmental problems constantly, right. So this is the condition you have to create, so that say 1000 capacity, or the next time suppose you make it after 2 years 2000 units capacity plant. So this is assured that you can continue with this particular the production rate, production volume. Okay, it's not that based on the order booking. Are getting my point? Normally, what you have, you say, sir, this is the product we are manufacturing, and you know that for this product, for the next 5 years, full orders received. When we started working in organization, so we used to have this information. This is the product division I am working with. You know, it's assured for the next 5 to 6 years, the orders have already booked, and periodically review this. This is one aspect definitely, but it doesn't mean when you consider the environmental say the impact, it doesn't necessarily mean that the orders are there and now you can continue with this. Are you getting my point? I mean, there are cases where the orders were booked, but then there are some environmental problems suddenly, okay, you become aware of for your products, and there will be a lot of restrictions, right, and you have to withdraw your product. Are you aware of such cases? You have introduced a product, okay, everyone jumped on it, but the later on after say 2 months or after 2 years, okay, these the problems are highlighted and you have no other alternative, your license is taken away, okay, production license, and you have no other alternative but to withdraw. So obviously, you know, under such situation you say, I have created a manufacturing system, production system, it's not sustainable. And it's happening these days, many companies, okay. So achieving sustainable manufacturing is not an easy task, okay. Minimize pollution and waste, this is obvious in fact, right. So whether for minimization of the pollution and waste, whether you have an inbuilt system or not, that means you are bothering more about the prevention or the preventive measures, not corrective measures, okay. Initially it is preventive measures, and when the problems do occur, when you face problems on the real time actually, then obviously you have to take some corrective measures or remedial measures. Is it okay? But primarily when you create a system, you must focus on, okay, identification of the preventive measures, and normally these preventive measures you need to consider even at the design level. I have already pointed out that there is a process life cycle for process, for any process you name, any factory you name. Initially it is a design phase, then it is a commissioning phase, then it is operation phase, then the decommissioning phase, and then you go for dismantling phase. Is it okay? It's the whole system. It may take 50 years of time. Now what you will find that the preventive measures you need to consider at the design level. That is the best possible course of action. Is it okay? So design for environmental impact, that's to be considered initially. What will happen, suppose during the design phase you don't consider all these aspects. Later on during the production phase you have a limited opportunity. Getting my point? So when we discuss the life cycle costing, this point we are going to highlight. Is it okay? So you proceed slow during the design phase. You never say that I am freezing the design. You take long time. What the Japanese do. Getting my point? It may take 2 years time, 3 years time. You consider your design from all sorts of aspects, right? Fine. And then you certify, yes, we have considered and now we are going to produce the products. So in all likelihood, your production system will remain sustainable. Is it okay? Minimize energy utilization. So what is the reason? Why do you want to minimize energy utilization? Okay, so just you try to find out. Why do you want to minimize the energy utilization? Okay, how do you measure in a given production system, given a process? How do you measure the energy utilization? Is it okay? Is there any mechanism you are aware of? Is it okay? Like suppose I am running a CNC machine. It's almost 24 hours it's working. Or say suppose I run a robotic systems, robots. Okay. Now can you conclude that this is energy intensive? If it is energy intensive, then you have to prove that this is unavoidable. Unavoidable. This is the attitudes must change. I am using so many resources, whether it is really required or not. Is it okay? So that's why the waste control is a must. But prior to that, the minimum the resource utilization you have to ensure. Right. Even the countries like US, they huge resources and best quality resources they have. Okay. I'll tell you examples like this. Suppose if you invite 100 persons for a dinner and you make sure that whatever may be your choice, you will get that dish. So you have 10 specific choices, right? But ultimately, when you come, you just take one choice, right? So essentially, suppose you make 10 choices, and that sort of system they used to have, then it's okay, fine. So ultimately, 100 people are taking food, taking dinner, but for 900 people's, okay, the food going to the drain. Has that been the case in 60s, 50s, even in 70s in US, the West, right? I just get one refrigerator of one model. It's absolutely running condition. So that has been the case. Suddenly you find there is another model has come. It's better. What do? You just throw away this, your refrigerator and the dustbin, right? Absolutely in the perfect condition, working condition. You just throw in the dustbin and you start using the new model. Or you are driving a car, the latest model, right? And suddenly you say it's a new model. So what do? You just the car which you are using right now, you just leave it in the highway. Simply leave it on the highway, and you start using the second car. These had been their practices. Okay. Now they have stopped. Is it affordable? Is it sustainable? Is it okay? So this is not acceptable. Because ultimately it is, if you consider it's the total cost, life cycle cost. There are two types of costs you have. Like you purchase one, say the equipment, right? You go by the first cost of purchase. Okay. First, but will you go by only the first cost of purchase, the total cost of purchase? Suppose you say the price is very less, so you install it. Now, in the traditional approach, if the price is less, okay, that means corresponding cost is less, the quality is also less, and the performance will be affected. Now, what do you find? You have installed, but there will be a lot of problems. The machine, frequent breakdowns, pollution, no inherent mechanism for pollution control, right? Making lot of sound, highly, you need a lot of energy to run the systems. So what is important is before you purchase an equipment, not the first cost of purchase, you should consider the total cost of purchase. Now you are representing a company. For the total cost of purchase, right, the equipment, and you will definitely include in the total cost equation the environment related factors, definitely. Now you are representing a company, you know the situations. Do you have your own cost profile? That is very, very important. I work in company A. This is my total cost equation. If I go to another company, the total cost equation may be different. So those, you must create a system with which you say that this is the best possible total cost equation for my production plant. Getting my point? So a lot of research is required, and that is expected from you. You are at the top management level. Is it okay? At the strategic level. So that is expected from you. Okay, you asked this question. Is that, do you have your cost profile? What is your cost profile? It's clear. So these are the details you should work on. May prevent global warming and climate change to some extent. This is a very, the critical research. So unless and until you become a researcher, you may not get the answer properly on these issues. But you get, on these aspects, the overall, the impact you must be aware of. After all, you are representing one particular industry, one particular sector. Is it okay? So at least from the, with respect to that industry, in your country and the other countries throughout the world, you must have this data. Getting my point? Conserved resources, conservations, obviously, enable economic progress, this is already there. Balance environmental and business needs, there must be balance. Is it okay? It just cannot be just one-sided approach, biased approach. Now, when, as I have been telling you, there are hundreds of approaches for already recommended for measuring and evaluating environmental performance. Okay. So, so initially what you try to do, that means you go through the literature. Okay. So, so the taxonomy, that means the classification. You get it, all these approaches classified or grouped under several categories from different perspectives. That is your starting point. So what you find, if you go through the literature, and I expect that this is a you may be dealing with your this knowledge, okay, after attending this Gyan program. So what you can do, you can take certain problems to you, and you go for further study, in-depth study. Okay, you can take it as a this problem as a PhD level problems also, research problems. There is a lot of scope, in fact. So that's why the literature review is a must. That's your starting point. So you find direct approaches, you find integrated pollution control. This is pollution control. They call it pollution control. Is it okay? Their whole focus is that defining pollution, measuring pollution, and identification of the control measures. Okay, for pollution control measures. Intelligent and information based environmental management. Is it okay? This is also you will find there are many researchers they have developed this one, information based. Environmental innovation management and planning. Innovation, environmental innovation management and planning. This is also one category they have mentioned. Lifecycle assessment and remanufacturability. Have you heard about remanufacturing? This term, remanufacturing. Okay, so so that's a decision to be made, right? Now, for certain products, for certain processes, under certain conditions, remanufacturing is a feasible alternative. One class of products and one class of say the processes. Is it okay? And for the other categories of products or other categories of processes, remanufacturing may not be a feasible alternative. So, given a product, first you have to verify whether the remanufacturing is a possibility or not, is a feasible alternative or not. Is it okay? And never you assume that the remanufacturing means just means recreating. It's not that. Okay, like I will the original spare parts I know, so I will create the spurious and the spare parts. Okay. There are cases like this, in fact. So remanufacturing means basically, you know that the economic life of a product, the economic life of this building. Okay, you create the multi-storied, okay, building complex, right, and you are charging rent. Okay, so there is the time period. Okay, it's like the engineering economics. Uniform series present what factor? Is it okay? So now, what do you try to do in determining this rent? You must assume that what is the life of this building, lifespan. So usually, it is assumed to be 50 years. Is it okay? Similarly, suppose you install, this is very, very important in fact. So suppose I installed a particular, say the equipment, that's a product for one company, industrial product. So I have installed there. And then you say that I need to determine its economic life, right. Now the economic life is over. What do? And during this economic life, obviously there could be the problems, there could be failures, but you have the maintenance system. But after some time, when the economic life is over, the maintenance, you cannot do the maintenance. It will be very, very expensive and all. So you say enough is enough, I have to replace it with the new one. So I have to replace it. So what do? That means the entire, previously the disposal after use. Yesterday I mentioned that the last element in the quality loop, disposal after use. So you just throw away, dispose of. Today, what do? Like, can it be reconditioned? Is it okay? Instead of just throwing away, like life is over. So why don't you just check that whether you can get back its life once again. But you have to carry out certain first tests, then you have to do some reconditioning, okay, to make some major repairs, overhauls and all those you have to do depending on the system you create. So instead of throwing it away altogether, why don't you make a try? Now, whether the remanufacturing is possible or not, okay, that is to be first certified. As a number of tests is to be created, is to be carried out. Is it okay? And if the test result shows that yes, remanufacturing is a possibility, then for remanufacturing you create, it goes to the original equipment manufacturer and they must have their own systems so that they can recreate. So this is one scenario. The second scenario is, suddenly there is some damage to your equipment. Is it okay? There could be burning, there could be many other types of failures, and absolutely the equipment becomes unworkable. Is it okay? So the traditional practice had been just fine, you throw away, but then it is directly, you are in conflict with the natural environment's requirements, so you can't do that. So before you throw away, you check that to what extent, you can recreate the whole thing. So there are technologies available, so you have to find out those technologies. Suppose one portion is get damaged, the other portion remains all right, and it's a material, mind it, it will directly affect the natural environment if it is disposed of. So what you try to do, because this is a processed material, mind it, it's not a raw material. Had it been a raw material, it will not affect the natural environment. Is it okay? If it is a processed material, it's all likelihood it will affect the quality of the natural environment. You have to maintain the quality, existing quality of the natural environment. That is the basic message. Right? Come what you may. So what you try to do, you search for the technology. Right? So whether one portion is gone, now you get the original the drawing and you try to create with some filler materials and all. So you have to make a search. There are hundreds of technologies they have already developed. It's clear, for different types of materials. Okay, for metal, non-metal, all categories. Is it okay? So life cycle assessment and remanufacturability. Remanufacturability is a very is an important issue to be considered. Environmental impact assessment, particularly for the mining industry, is okay. They have been carrying out more than 100 years or so. Also, so there are different types of quarries. The stone quarries we have. You have heard about it, stone quarries. It's a serious problem. So you have to identify. There are many kinds of industries. Is it okay? Now you need to do research, PhD level research work on environmental performance system. So you need to find out the industry where this problem is very, very much acute. So environmental impact assessment is the many companies, right, many industries, they have been carrying out, okay, for a long time, and there are hundreds of approaches. It's industry specific. Okay, so environmental impact assessment, how do you carry out? What are the methods? Okay, what are the parameters to be considered? How many approaches you come across in the literature? Okay, make a review. And strategic environmental assessment. That means to what extent your business plan considers this particular issue, environmental issue, right? Means whether it is discussed in the AGM or not, the top management support, whether you will get or not. So many companies, they are coming forward, even at the strategic level, okay, they consider this particular issue, right? Now, environmental risk governance, that means the risk is to be defined. This is the impact, the risk, right? The risk can be defined in many ways. And what you try to do, you define the risk, but this risk is to be, means the probability of occurrence you must consider. And if this one event occurs, what is its impact? And that impact, the physical impact definitely you consider, but it's to be considered, converted into monetary terms. Then everybody will understand the problem in the same fashion. So whenever the impact you try to the assess, so the impact must be explained, okay, in physical terms as well as in monetary terms. Is it okay? That means across the people at all strata of the society, okay, they can interpret it. Getting my point? Otherwise, you use you define impact in your technical terms, right? They may not be able to interpret. Getting my point? Sustainability measurement, we'll take it up. What are the measurements? These are the direct approaches, under direct approaches. Now there are indirect approaches like energy management and carbon footprint reduction. So everyone talks about carbon footprint and all. You must be aware as a researcher that in the given context, whether this carbon footprint is feasible one or not, or you may be missing some other important issues. Getting my point? This has become a fashion now in many cases. The person concerned may not be knowing all other aspects, but he has heard about carbon footprint. You ask him to explain what is the carbon footprint. Getting my point? Always. So that you get the details. Unless and until you share the details, don't accept it as a technique. So that's why I'm telling you, in the name of the discussions on environmental management, you come across such the terms, but in which context the terms are applicable, you must know. Getting my point? So energy management and carbon footprint reduction, green purchasing and green marketing. This term also has become very, very popular, green manufacturing. But suppose I ask you one question, is the green supply chain, green manufacturing. You just write down, in order to make the, say, distribution requirements planning systems, DRP, your manufacturing systems, DRP, the supply chain you have, so inbound logistics, outbound logistics, so single tier, multiple tier, here also outbound logistics. There are lots many applications. Here is one area, these two areas where there are lot many quantitative techniques have already been used. Okay, even in 60s, you go through the literature. There is one area where a lot many applications of the word tools and techniques, operational research tools and technique, you find. Now the question is that you develop and you identify what are the parameters, what are the decision variables at different tiers, at different levels. Now, how do you define the greenness of this one? You have to define it. How do you define the greenness? So, you should define it, and then you must have the ability to make others understand, particularly your subordinates. That is expected from you. Getting my point? So, the green manufacturing, so in a given context for a given product, okay, how do you define this greenness? And that too in the supply chain. Green manufacturing, green purchasing and green marketing. Okay, what does it mean? Lean manufacturing, have you heard this term, lean manufacturing? Many companies, even the defense establishments, they are becoming aware of the importance of lean manufacturing. This is okay, leanness. Essentially, this is the term coined by the Europeans. Okay, but essentially we refer to JIT manufacturing systems. Getting my point? So it has come from say the Japan, the Toyota production system TPS, and then it came in the late 50s, early 60s, and the Europeans, they are reluctant to take this approach. So they give a different name, they call it the lean. Is it okay? So, but there are certain, but essentially it's same, absolutely same. There's hardly any difference. So the lean, you must become lean and thin, definitely, but you must not become sick. Is it okay? You shed your fat, definitely, but don't become a sick person. There are hundreds such cases, in fact. And obviously, as a company, you cannot afford to be a sick entity. Getting my point? Sickness. So, what is why I am saying so? The sickness. Suppose I find myself to be sick. One of the principal reasons could be my food intake could be very, very less. Right? So that means the metabolism. Right? So basic the BMR. So I need 1200 kilocalories per day to maintain my the main body organs, brain, 360 kilocalorie per day it requires. Then you have the heart, then you have the muscles, And the last one, that is the kidney. Your brain must work, the kidney also must work, right? Your heart also must work. So it's running constantly, 24 hours. So they need energy. So they maintain these body organs, you need at least 1200 kilocalorie per day. And then you need to move around and all this. You have not come out from your house. You need around 1200 to 1300 kilocalorie. So around 2500 kilocalorie you require, okay, to maintain. Okay, so this is referred to as the BMR. Okay, then you go to the workplace, you need 500 more. So 3000 kilocalorie per day you require. Suppose I am a clerk. I am suppose the ocean, say, the fisherman in the ocean. I need around 4500 to 5000 kilocalorie per day, right? So that is required. So question is, so if you have less energy, okay, you become sickness. What is happening for the industries or the companies, right? The severe wastages. You have you need 100 kg, you have 500 kgs, right? So most of the time you will find if you have more inventory, more resources, you become sick. Is it okay? So you have to make a system in such a way that only the right quantity at the right time at the right quality of materials made available at the right time with the minimum cost. So that is to be ensured. And then you say that yes, I have made my system a lean one. Direct approaches are directly related to pollution control technologies. That means it is totally dependent on the technology. Like say air pollution we control. So you need to use certain technology. And initiatives which perform ecologically and environment friendly. Do you know the definition of ecology? Eco-friendly we say. What does it mean? So you try to get this definition from the Webster dictionary. Getting my point? So the context you must know. What is the origin? You must know as a researcher. It's clear? Direct approaches also deal with strategies and policy formulation. This is just an explanation regarding pollution control and sustainable manufacturing to adopt green manufacturing. This is just a look. Now these are the direct approaches. Just go through. First one is the integrated pollution control. I have gone through the literature, and the approaches come across. So integrated pollution control, get the details, and you just check that for which kind of system this is applicable. Under integrated pollution control, there could be different approaches. Which approach is applicable in which particular situation? Is it okay? So that sort of the decision you must be able to take. Intelligent and environment-based environmental management, environmental innovation management, life cycle assessment and remanufacturability, I have already mentioned, environmental impact assessment. There are different dimensions of the problem. Is it okay? And each the approach actually addressing one or few dimensions. You can't get say the one approach, right, which that identifies and addresses all the dimensions. Not possible. So what actually you try to do when you have all these the approaches known, now you have to analyze your present system. So which approaches are applicable in your present system? So out of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 3 are applicable. Okay, so you just pick up only these 3 approaches for the time being. Is it okay? and maybe after 2 years you need to incorporate another approach. So, this way you must proceed. So, initially you start with one and slowly you add other approaches. Is it okay? So, it takes time, maybe it will take some 3 to 4 years of time or at least 2 years of time to get the total integrated system, because your product mix is also changing, your process is also changing. Getting my point? Initially it was a traditional manufacturing, one kind of environmental problem you face. Today you install CNC machines, another kind of environmental problem you may be facing. So, it is a constantly the dynamic scenario. Is it clear? So, what happens? So, the first you make an attempt to develop this integrated approach for environmental the management systems, right. So, initially you start with the most simple one and then slowly you start adding new one, particularly the second one, intelligent and environment based environmental management systems, right. That means you first sustainability measurement. These are the issues which take up later on, not now. Initially you start with integrated pollution control, let it be, which is clearly visible pollution, everyone will understand. Getting my point? Do not start with sustainability the measurement. Is it okay? Where it is not visible, many such concepts is happening silently, but it is not visible. But if you start with the smoke, the fumes, is it okay? Is it directly visible? Is it okay? So, you start with purifying your work environment, physical work environment. It's clear. So, that is very, very important in fact. Integrated pollution control, these are the references. So, Goldstein et al. So, is a group of researchers introduced a methodology capable of cross country extension. So, you just note down his references, you get the details. Is it okay? You have to study minutely in detail. Is it okay? There are technical parameters you have to understand. The methodology is tested on a sample of Irish facilities, Ireland, in 3 sectors. 3 sectors mean 3 industries. Sector means industries. It's like the chemical industry, right? You know how the industry is defined. During 1996-2004, over a period of almost 8 years, right? Preliminary results show its usefulness in exploring the determinants of environmental performance. That means the factors determining or the factors affecting the environmental performance at the sector and cross sectoral levels. There are factors which are affecting a particular industry. There are other factors which are affecting not only one industry, all the industries as a whole. That means it is a national problem. Are you getting my point? So, there may be some common factors, there could be some special factors. So, this way you categorize the factors. It's clear? A strategic approach to computer and software based environmental management, when you talk about the intelligent systems, no? So, that is clearly meant. So, your generation knows it very well in fact, computer based system. Development of environmental integrated management systems, tools and strategies for engineering SMEs, okay, small and medium enterprises. Okay. Burke and Gowron 2006 developed a multi-tier architecture to construct various stages of information based environmental management. Is it okay? So, this is another case. Environmentally conscious planning or comparative assessment of waste streams as found by Sheng and Srinivasan. This is another reference. Is it okay? Related to environmental innovation management. That means here is one areas where the creativity is required. If you have the creativity, then only you can act as an innovator. Is it okay? And if you have some like say absolutely the new way, that means the invention you have. Why talk about innovation? Why not invention? Is it okay? The problems are not getting solved. So you are waiting for a genius. He solves the problem. Right? Like for example, I cite this example. Hundreds of thousands of years, apple used to fall. The people watched. People used to explain why it is falling. Right? I have asked my researchers. So the Isaac Newton, right, explains the phenomenon. Right? The apple falling on the ground. Thousands of years, the people have been explaining. What are these explanations? Do you mean to say that no student has asked any professor this question, say why apple is falling on the ground? Before Newton appeared the scene? Yes, definitely. And what the professors or the teachers used to, in how ways they used to answer? Just to find out. Right. So always you will find that many a time the solutions are there. You say, yes, this is the only solution. Getting my point? But suddenly one genius comes from nowhere and he has given the new solutions and all other solutions become defunct. Getting my point? So this is also a very critical problem, environmental management. There is no solution till now. Maybe one genius will come and he will give a solution. Right? Wait for this opportunity. So, environmental impact the management is influenced by significant environmental pressures, including government environmental regulations. Is that okay? The state is controlling you. You have to follow the state regulations, right? As described by these authors. Product life cycle and environmental performance are positively correlated as found by Horn and Zhu. These are the observations in fact. So in the next class, okay, in subsequent class, I will highlight these aspects. Is it okay? You must have at least in your mindset a few, the total cost expression, right? Approximate, let it be approximate one. And as you may be knowing that whenever you calculate cost, the cost measurement is always an approximate method, always. Okay, that's why it is called cost estimates. It's clear? So product life cycle and environmental performance, okay, these are closely linked. And life cycle assessment, okay, life cycle cost assessment compiles an inventory of relevant energy and material inputs and environmental releases. Basically input-output modeling. Is it okay? Output at what cost over the time periods. Is it okay? So all the activities for the entire life cycle you need to consider. Is it okay? This is the life cycle cost, and that is a committed cost. Is it okay? So LCA evaluates the potential impacts associated with identified inputs and releases, okay, like pollutants and all. And this author explores the design content for products, remanufacturability, leading to improved environmental performance. Today, what they have mentioned, that when you design the product for the first time, okay, now you add the dimension, so the design for remanufacturability also. Like initially you design for the operations, but then you add design for maintainability, design for serviceability, design for assembly. Okay, you go through all these texts, okay, these are all there. Similarly, the design for remanufacturability, right? That means I know that how many ways, okay, the product may be damaged, okay, and can I classify them, and if suppose the damage type 1 has occurred, can the product be recreated, or 2 or 3 types of damages occurring jointly, what is its impact? Is it okay? Can I get the original shape and size of the product? If yes, then how do you do that? So can you incorporate those type of features or those sort of processes in your manufacturing system? Is it okay? The product is coming back. This is a sick one, it's dead. So the dead object, to make it a live object. That's the concept of remanufacturability. Okay, many years back, like the Tata Motors, they have created, even in 1950s or 60s, the reconditioning plant. Okay, so given an opportunity, you must visit. So what actually they have been doing, that the machine is the imported one. It will work for 25 hours, 25 years. Now it has become obsolete. Okay. Now, can you reconditioning it in such a way that it becomes as good as old at least, if not as good as new? So in the process, what happens that you come to know the ins and outs of the design process. Getting my point? And you propose a new design, certain design changes, so that remanufacturability is a feasible alternative with respect to that particular equipment. Is it okay? So this is a real contribution, in fact. Environmental impact assessment, this is also a thoroughly studied area, in fact, necessary for quantitative evaluation of product design in terms of environmental impact. The impact is to be defined. What are the kinds of impacts you may have? Now, environmental impact assessment allows the likely significant environmental effects of a project. This is just an elaboration to be identified and to be avoided, remedied or minimized at an early stage. Clearly understood. Now, the Choi et al. Show that number of components, the selection of materials and processes, and recyclability are the essential factors to determine whether the products are environmentally oriented or not, or environmental friendly or not. So these are the factors. Strategic environmental assessment, addressed by so many researchers, you have named them, in fact. And this assessment is related to strategic decisions at the top management level regarding manufacturing and supply chain in order to make them green, within quote green, as I have been telling you, there is to be defined. Improves the information base for policy making, planning and program development. Is it okay? Automatic. And facilitates greater transparency and more effective public participation at the strategic level. Strategic environmental assessment, again continuing. So all these details are mentioned. So you just go through them. Okay, it's a descriptive. All the points I have intended to highlight. Is it okay? You have a total, the assessment. The mindset you must create. It's not, you must not focus on just one aspect. Is it okay? So all these aspects are important and to be considered jointly. And they are not independent, they are dependent. Environmental risk governance. Promote economic development and more equitable distribution and demographic management. That's the bigger issues, in fact, at the national level. Good governance and pollution performance are positively correlated, as found by Kong and Friedman. There are studies on this one. So the government plays a very important role, in fact, or the state plays a very important role. So, Ben et al. Developed a process based approach for the governance of environmental disputes that allows for the evolving nature of stakeholder relations in a highly complex multiple stakeholder arena. These are the research areas, mind it. These are the research areas. Sustainability measurement. Determine the long-term impact. They have been known to you of the manufacturing processes and products on the environment. Long-term impact. So, whenever you go for life cycle costing, you need to know this cost equation is developed knowing the long-term impact. Lead to capture the holistic view of the manufacturing process. Holistic view. How do you look at your manufacturing system? That is very important in fact. How many models you have, the manufacturing systems? From different perspectives. Okay. You draw, there are many examples in fact on this, that based on your perspective, you draw the input-output diagram of the same system. So, from the quality perspective, you say yes, the quality management systems, QMS. So, I look at the manufacturing system from the quality perspective, input-output modeling. Similarly, I look at my manufacturing system from the environmental management perspectives. So, how do you represent your say the manufacturing systems with a block diagram, input-output modeling? Can you make it try? So, what are the inputs? So, you know the input-outputs modeling like any simulation exercise you do. So, here is a system. So, there will be inputs, there will be parameters, there will be outputs, and there will be uncontrollable noise factors. So, can you draw such a sketch? Just one rectangle you draw from the environmental perspective, whatever in a production plant in general. Is it okay? It may not be a job shop or may not be a continuous processing. It could be just a batch manufacturing. Are you aware of what is a batch manufacturing? What is the job shop? These are the three categories of manufacturing and the continuous processing. Is it okay? So, let it be a batch manufacturing. Is it okay? Batch manufacturing, that means in terms of, so the varieties, in terms of production volume, in terms of flexibility, okay, right, in terms of the processes. So, that particular the 3-dimensional or 4-dimensional aspects. So, there will be different elements you need to consider. This way you have to define. Okay. So, in the same structures, when you consider the job shop, there are many job shops over here, mostly that SMEs. So, essentially the job shops, but 60 to 80% of the manufacturing systems actually the batch production, repetitive manufacturing. So, in that case, so suppose environmental related factors you need to consider. How do you represent this from the environmental point of view? That is the first exercise you have to do, right. So, that is called basically the holistic view of the manufacturing process. There are many reports they have developed. You go through all these reports. Can you draw this? Everyone, make a try. Just environmental factors. You know what is it? Look at a particular, say, your system could be just one machine tool, right. So, machine is performing, right. There are inputs, there are outputs, right. Now, can you identify the input factors, the output, right, the parameters, and uncontrollable noise factors. These uncontrollable noise factors may come from the from inside or from outside, internal to the system or external to the system, both. So, this is just make a try. So, that is your starting point, mind it. And then the next problem is that you need to identify the problem. Once this is certified, then what you need to do, that means you have to write down what are the problems related to environmental management that you have been coming across for quite some time. Okay, you need to write down the problems, right? Then what is the next step? The next step is you have to quantify this problem. You say air pollution is a problem, okay, or say the water discharge is a problem, recycling is a problem, right? There could be many other problems you can write down, or the waste is a problem, the scraps, okay, and I cannot reuse it, I cannot recycle it, is it okay? I cannot remanufacture, that is a problem today. Waste disposal is a problem. So, the problems you have to highlight first, write down. Then you have to quantify the problem. And for quantification of the problem, you have to collect data. You have to observe. How do you collect data? Mostly for the environmental study, don't depend on the secondary sources of data. Okay. Don't make a search on the internet, or don't so make a search of the papers and you say these are the data. So, normally you will be dealing with the primary data. So, you have no other alternative but to go for direct observations. That means the field study is a necessity, essential field study. If someone carrying out a research work and he is never referring to some field study or the specific problem, you just ignore them. I am highlighting, say, supply chain management problem, but I am not referring to a particular product. Absolutely, it is rubbish. Make sure, because these are all empirical research, right? So, first question you ask them, sir, what is the product? What is the problem dimensions today? There is a starting point. With reference to environmental management issues, definitely, I accept that. Then the specific terms, the values, and whenever they say that this is the value of pollution, don't be satisfied just with one value. You say, sir, what is the range? That means two things you must, with respect when you quantify, the average value as well as the standard deviation. Otherwise, it is meaningless. Getting my point? Okay, so with respect to the product, with respect to the process, whatever it is to be explained. Otherwise, it's just a generalization, right? So, whenever you go through these case studies, so invariably you will find that the product is named, the processes are clearly explained, the problems are quantified, and that is called research. So, that is the field study, right? Like on the National Geographic channel, there are many such cases they highlight on environmental aspects. You will find invariably they are visiting the places and meeting the persons concerned, taking the data. So, that is called direct observations and the primary data. That is called field study. That is it. So, but if you go for the field study, you will really, you will realize that how problem I feel like solving the problem. Getting my point? It's not just an exercise on the computer. Is it okay? Then only you will come to know what could be the alternative policies and all, Then you come back, and then when you have the data, now you can simulate under different conditions. But the starting point must be the field study. So, indirect approaches also deal with the proper selection of green suppliers to promote green purchasing and green marketing. So, these are the three approaches I have come across. One is the green purchasing and green marketing. So, this concept you go through. Energy management and carbon footprint reduction, get the details, okay, and the lean manufacturing. So, energy management, these are the issues, right? These are the issues you have. All these details you go through. Energy management. Like one important point is the improved power factor, such as by adding condensers. The specific examples. Economic efficiency may be adopted by both large scale industries and SMEs as well. Is it okay? This is energy management. Everywhere it is applicable. Green purchasing and green marketing. There are certain points I have highlighted. Certify environmentally sustainable products, that is a requirement. Enhance productivity and quality of products and services. Provide network partner assistance to suppliers. Consolidate direct suppliers. Deliver higher profitability and competitive advantage. Reduce dependence on fluctuating prices of resources. Okay. So, the 6P approach you may be aware of: product, promotion, planning, process, people and project. The 100 ways, no, the concept is propagated. An integrated model to develop improved green marketing. Lean manufacturing, this is a well researched area. So, I have many examples, okay, what are the approaches and all those details. We have carried out a lot of studies on lean manufacturing, actual field studies in fact, lot of applications and all. So, these are the references. So, the less defects with enhanced quality to ensure better environmental performance. Is it okay? Minimize transportation, because the main focus is there is a value adding activity, non-value adding activity. So, how to minimize the non-value adding activities, that is the focus. So, in a typical manufacturing, you have the setup, you have the processing, you have the transfer or the material handling from one station to another, and the waiting time. Out of these four, right, setup, non-value adding, okay, so it should be done with minimum time and all. So, zero setup they say. Then the processing is value adding, but the material handling non-value adding, so it should be minimized. And this one, like say the waiting time or the queuing time should be minimum. So, what they have found, if you collect data, you will find that the 60 to 80% of the time you spend on the other three activities, not processing. Okay. So, initially the automated systems in the 60s to late 80s, early 90s, they focused on the processing, how to automate the processing. Is it okay? Manual labor versus the automation as an alternative. But they never considered in the automation, okay, to what extent the automation affects the setup as well as the transfer and all those. So, ultimately what happens, that it may not be the cost effective, because it is just 10 to 15% of the total time. So, even if you go for automation, you engage robots, but robots only for the processing, okay, you gain hardly anything, because your total lead time or the throughput time remains almost same. So, today when you talk about automation, now to what extent the automation simplify the process, that is your focus. That means you should consider that whether to what extent it can reduce the queuing time, to what extent it can reduce the transfer time, and to what extent it can reduce the setup. Then only the automation is meaningful. Getting my point? So, that is why I tell you that when you talk about the total systems approach with respect to the environmental performance, CIM, computer integrated manufacturing, definitely we consider. But more importantly for a country of ours, right, what is important, you should consider computer integrated business, CIB. So get the details of CIB, what the Japanese, the plan, so the Japanese organizations. Is it okay? They have been implementing CIB. Even if you apply CIM, your the product may not be the cost effective. Getting my point, the production systems. CIB, computer integrated business. We have talked about the marketing, we talked about the selling, we talked about getting the purchase orders, we talked about getting getting the supplies from the suppliers or the vendors. So all these the business processes you need to consider, right? And when you talk about the green marketing, green purchasing essentially, so we focus on the business activities, right? So strategies of management cycle or limited financial resources, management style, human resources, so these are the factors you need to consider. Environmental management status, manufacturing activity, technological approach, innovative capacity, external cooperations and all those. So these are the ways. So I stop here. Okay. So there will be break for 10-15 minutes and then professor they will come. Okay. I will be taking your session, the last sessions I will be taking today. Okay. Ready? So have a cup of tea, have a break.
Good morning everyone. How are you today? Good? Okay. So today we would be discussing on circular economy. As you know, climate change issues, sustainability are the major hot topic today. Okay, and we would be looking circular economy from the small and medium sized enterprises perspective. As you all know, manufacturing has been given emphasis to Indian economy, and it is expected to grow from 17% to close to 25%. You are right, 22%. Okay, by 2025. So in order to really see that growth, we need to not only concentrate on the original equipment manufacturer, public sector, those who are in manufacturing, but also across the supply chain. Okay? India has a big manufacturing supply chain within the country. It has, we have seen 48 million SMEs in India, contributing close to 20% to the GDP. 40% of the Indian workforce work in SME. It is around 106 million people. Okay? And there would be substantial growth, and it's really boon to the country. There will be loads of employment. So sustainability is a major issue here. So how do we really combat? How do we really combat that environmental impact, negative environmental impact, negative social impact because of the tremendous growth in manufacturing? That we need to really address it. So today we would look into how circular economy concept, which is a major paradigm from the linear supply chain to circular supply chain, how it could affect positively. Okay? Many countries are quite ahead in adopting circular economy. China, as for example, many European countries, as for example, including UK. So we need to really look into where are we, what we need to really do. We have discussed that larger company has a sustainability reporting mechanism. But how about the companies in the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4? Okay? So we need to really look at that, how, what are the things we need to do very conceptually to start with, and then how we model them mathematically. How do we analyze where the companies are, where the SME supply chain, keeping SME as a focal point, how their customers, OEM, what role they are playing, okay, what the policymakers' role should be, what individual SMEs must really contribute, even the end customers, okay, what way things should really move, so that the society become circular. So that's our major objective. We'll begin with quick statistics, which we have seen earlier. Okay, UK, developed country, it has also enormous number of small and medium sized companies. 11% of the GDP is being contributed by manufacturing companies, okay, and they have tier 1, tier 2 SMEs, suppliers within the country, and they import many components from across Europe, Asia, including India, China. So it's contributing 20% to the GDP, smaller companies I mean, okay, 5.7 million SMEs and employing 15.8 million people, and which is, there is also a tendency of growth in the small and medium sized enterprises in the UK manufacturing sector, okay, and it is expected that the small and medium sized enterprises will contribute to around 250 billion, okay, which is 19% higher than the current figure. So every country is trying to really enhance their manufacturing output, okay, and it helps in enhancing the job creation. So while the emerging economy like India has a problem of job creation, similarly the developed economy like UK also has this problem, and they are trying to really solve these by growth of small and medium sized enterprises, okay, but they require to be really sustainable, because there are many environmental incidents across the world. It says that 70% of the world pollution happens through smaller and medium sized enterprises, okay, not only in India and China, but also in the European countries including UK. So just concentrate on the last point here, that 13% of the total energy demand is consumed by small and medium sized enterprises. So there is a huge scope of achieving energy efficiency within small and medium sized enterprises, and it is connected to the money. So always small and medium sized enterprises are interested to address this issue, okay. So if you look into major issue of small and medium sized enterprises, we have looked at before, that managing their business, okay, so they concentrate on economic achievement, okay, they give preference over environmental and social aspect, because they have to cut corner everywhere, huge competition, huge issues in their across their supply chain, okay, they have always arm length relationship with their customers, they have always they have a cash flow problem, okay, they have to really buy, they have to sell their product in credit, okay, but they have to really buy their product, buy their supplies using cash. That's a major issue. So that needs to be really resolved. So how circular economy concept could really help them? So let's understand first what is circular economy concept, okay, how SME can really get advantage, make the right trade-off among economic, environmental and social aspect by adopting the circular economy philosophy, okay. So efficiency is is a major achieving efficiency is a major issue to the small and medium sized enterprises. So what is efficiency? Let's start with the resource part of it, okay. Resource comprises of all the materials, machines, infrastructure, okay, manpower, etc. So, it means using less resources from the earth, which is coming from the very original sources. So, we need to be regenerative. So, the first point is we must consume less, and if we consume it, could we reuse? Okay? Could we recycle? So, reduce, reuse, recycle. We need to really adopt it in order to achieve the efficiency in the system, isn't it? Does it make sense? Okay? So, what we are talking about, the sustainability principle, making a right trade-off among economic, environmental and social aspect. So, that is the main aspect of achieving resource efficiency. So, circular economy concept is no way different from achieving the resource efficiency. It is, a paradigm shift the way we think today. Okay? In a typical production system, what we do? We make it, we use it, we dispose it, and from that we are moving to circular. Okay? We need to really keep using it. We need to extend the life of the product as much as possible. Okay? So, typical example is say automotive industry, if you look at. So, there are different tier of customers. Okay? New vehicle, first hand, second hand, third hand, and in emerging economy there is practically zero waste, and all the component of car, other than few plastic component today, could be recyclable. Okay? We need to really do that in every product, but it never happened for all the products. So, many computer product goes to landfill. So, basic underpinning is nothing should go to the landfill. Then we are moving towards circular economy. So, in one hand we have to really address the forward logistics, in the other hand we have to really address the reverse logistics. So, yesterday we discussed about the circular supply chain, isn't it? Closed loop supply chain, zero waste. Okay? So, zero landfill. So, going a bit further, so circular economy system that represents a paradigm shift from make, use and dispose to take, make, distribute, use and recover. That is the thing, complete cycle, and it happens in different level. Micro level. What is micro level? Enterprise and the consumer. So, if we think in a very supply chain perspective, so there are various companies who are making it, using it and handling it all through the life cycle. So, life cycle approach. So, every company within the economy, okay, we need to really address that, not the OEM only is achieving their sustainable goal, not. It should be tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 suppliers, everybody, enterprise level, meso level, all the activities, all the economic agent, all these companies that they are undertaking, that should be integrated. Okay? In macro level, all the cities, region, country as a whole, beyond country, supply chain. Okay? While Walmart is doing business across the world, they need to really take care of entire nations, if you like. Okay? So, that needs to be really integrated. So, it is not that Walmart would be concerned about American circular economy. They need to really talk about Chinese and Indian circular economy also. Then otherwise they won't be able to really do the business. So, other way around, okay, Indian companies will not be able to be internationalized unless the companies within the system is also adopting circular economy. So, that is circular economy everywhere, every level. So, 4 things, emerging things come up. First one, it is recirculation of the resources and energy, okay, and the minimization of demand of the resources, reduce part of it, and the recovery, reuse and recycle. That is the first part of it, which we are aware of, reduce, reuse, recycle. okay, multi-level approach. Then its importance as a path to achieve sustainable development. So, every country is setting up sustainable goal. The last but not the least, its closer relationship with the way society innovate. So, innovation should be promoted in line with that philosophy, okay, in every level. So, in one hand, your productivity is very important, okay. That means less input, higher output, that is very important part of it. Alongside, how could you reduce the consumption and reuse and recycle, okay. I repeat that, make it circular from linear. So, that paradigm shift. And other hand, how the entire waste, okay, right from the municipal solid waste, from the industry waste, okay, water treatment, our utility. So, we have to keep in mind that depleting of the resources in mind, okay, we have to really keep that always on in our head, otherwise we will lose that, okay. Water uses, fertilizer uses, oil, fossil fuel. So, adopting renewable sources of energy. So, we discuss about the your factory, wood, you deal with wood, okay. If supposing in one of your product you have a slight scratch and you have sent it to your customers and they complain, and you say okay, throw it off, because it is better to create a new one than working on it to fix it. But if you are addressing the circular economy concept, you must repair it. It should not go to the landfill, because you have put so much of resources to do it. Perhaps you equip yourself to repair it, you would be better off. So, that is the philosophical change we are talking about. Okay. Let us move on. How do we achieve circular economy? I mentioned that above. So, there are action steps, okay, and research have developed that you can really move from make, use and dispose to take, make, distribute, use and recover. That will give you more circular concept. So, it is a bit old wine in new bottle. Yesterday we looked into various supply chain sustainability performance measurement, construct, criteria, proxies, okay. Today we are looking into in a bit different way, by going into various type of activities that we undertake and how we are doing currently, okay. Could we do it in a environment friendly way, sustainable way. That means, what is sustainable way? That means it has economic dimension, it has social dimension, it has environmental dimension, okay. So, we model it further by this, okay. It take means the sourcing part of it, procurement part of it. We have few subconstruct mentioned here, but it could vary depending on type of industry you are talking about, okay. The country you are working on, you could really customize it. So, in the procurement side, you have right material selection, okay, regenerative material selection, and which is not really using scarce resources. We need to really be very, very sure, and it is really using in a very optimum way, okay. Although it may not be economically different, because if you look at, if you are in tier 1 supplier, say we are looking the problem from SME's perspective. So, if we have knowledge about resources, we try to really educate our tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, okay, what material they should be using it. One of the complaint often the suppliers in the supply chain in the further off from the end customers will complain, because they require to really abide by the specification of their customers. So, customers has a role to suggest suppliers to be regenerative. Okay, so that's the thing, material selection is very important part of it. Supplier selection, again looking into all the environmental social aspect along with the only the price. So quite often good companies are coming out with the ISO 14000 requirements, okay, energy audit report, that sort of things they are trying to really look at, so that they can really compare. So better environmental and social friendly companies, okay, higher chance of getting selected. That sort of things are been promoted. Logistics, okay, whether you are sourcing it from local source, local suppliers, or you are importing it. Okay, if you are importing it, there should be reason. Could we really develop local supplier? It has advantage of employment, it has advantage of growing the economy. So you need to really find out that whether companies are really doing it. Okay, you can understand where I am coming from, and that's the way you could really model it. Then look into the make part of it. Okay, eco design. Within your system, do you have that concept so that it is taking less resources, consuming less resource, okay, less machining time. Okay, you can develop skill on doing it, and you are growing manpower alongside, and which is increasing the employability of an individual. Okay, so that sort of thing. Energy uses, water uses, all sort of things needs to be really modeled. I have not used the water part of it, but you can do that. So it is not a sort of everything that you should consider. There might be some additional point as well. Okay, and the another point is whether we all need energy. Whether the energy, where is the energy coming from? Is it from the renewable sources? Okay, are you using solar power, solar panel? And is there any investment in doing the research so as to develop energy from waste, like the companies for your company? Okay, is there any initiative from you? Okay, maybe not now, in the due course. Are you progressive to really give a thought on this? That sort of things are very important, and you can pick up as a sort of measure, okay, where the companies are and where they should be. Okay. About the employees, equality, health and safety, well-being, women employment also very, very important. Okay, this is gender equality is very have come in a very big way today. So you need to really think of that as well, whether the companies are really employing. You will find that in many manufacturing Indian company, no women working. Okay, or that might be we need to really look into health hazard and that, but still, if you go into a sector which I am aware of, ready-made garment manufacturing, huge huge business in India as well as in Bangladesh, Vietnam, many emerging economy. We supply to the Western countries, not only our internal market but external market also. So many women work, whether they are well-being has been taken care properly, because women needs more flexible hour of working. Okay, they should not be encouraged to do the overtime, definitely not. Okay, so the salary should be really, really good, so that they can take care of their family. Okay, this is happening in Bangladesh. One of my students work on that. Very interesting, findings. Okay, so all sort of this aspect needs to be really considered here. And then the distribution part of it, it's mainly the logistics, which combines transportation and the warehouse. So if you bring warehouse in your distribution system, you need to really keep in mind that you are not only a bit inferior in terms of economics, but also you are not really better off environmentally. Okay, socially you might be a bit better because you are enhancing job there, but your energy consumption would be higher for bigger warehouse. Okay, in the use part of it, after sale service is coming in a big way to address the repair part of it. As we discussed, that we must be able to keep on using a particular equipment, okay, a particular product as long as possible. So, how do we really do that? After sale services, better repair facilities, network, okay, what sort of things we do it. So, you need innovation here. So, while you are making innovation, one of the point of circular economy is the innovation. Innovation is combining these three aspects, and your system, your adoption of circular economy should promote that. Okay. Corporate social responsibility, there lies the importance of the corporate social responsibility. Even the smaller companies are investing in corporate social responsibility, linking it with their economic performance. So, they are getting that if you invest in corporate social responsibility for the well-being of the society where they belong to, it helps. Okay. There are so many good stories within India, in the UK also. I will make mainly some few presentations, case studies of UK, but I would be subsequently talking about my experience with working with the Indian companies. Okay. Recover part of it, mainly looking into reverse logistics, okay, how efficiently you can have different level of markets, second, third, fourth, okay, depending on the product. Some product may straight away go to the recycle, okay, but recycle also has a sort of supply chain. If we can think of in our waste management, paper recycling industry is a big reverse logistics. Okay, some of the paper goes back to the paper mill in a very efficient way. Okay. So, recycle and the reverse logistics are the two components that we need to really think of for any manufacturing or the process industry, construction industry as well, and some cases services, where services are handling substantial material, as for example healthcare, okay, higher education also. Okay, let's look into a bit research way. What are the emerging research questions circular economy intends to address or needs to address? Okay. What are the major issues and challenges of each phase of circular economy? Take, make, distribute, use and recover. Okay. Within SMEs for achieving sustainable performance. Okay. Are they really achieving it? Is it giving any value? That sort of question really comes to our mind. Okay. Is there any best practice within each phase of circular economy? What's really going on across the world? Does it really vary with the geographical location, industry type? So, particular industry is more adopting it than the other. So, this type of research question you could really think of. What innovation could be suggested in each phase to enhance sustainability performance, okay, in a very circular economy way? That what innovation? There is a concept came up called sustainable oriented innovation, okay, SOI. There are few academic paper also on that. You might be interested to look at. Okay. What role individual SMEs consortium, policy maker, researchers must play in order to promote that? Okay. You may not require to really note it because I have given you the updated slides. Is there any difference and similarity between adopting circular economy in the emerging economy and developed economy? That is also very important. Okay. So, because I lived in many countries over the period and have experience in working across Britain as well as in few European countries. So, I try to always see that could we learn something from the developed economies perspectives, or could we really give them something? Okay. There are many best practices in our system, could we really communicate to them? So, this is my role. Okay. So, last but not the least, how could we measure circular economy performance objectively, okay, using mathematical model on that. Now, if you look into each question, it make very good sense to me, okay, and they are significant, they are being dealt with. It is not that I have evolved it from my top of my head. It's not that. It's everybody is working in this area. Okay, some tweaking or some twisting the question, they are trying to really address it. General methodology for it is data collection, statistical application, okay, sometimes qualitative approach also, Delphi technique type. Okay, you ask people and develop common understanding, see that what are they saying. Ethnographic study, some of you might have heard of it, qualitative study, okay, grounded theory approach. So, various type of approach is being adopted in order to get the answer for these questions. Okay, it's quite emerging, quite a hot topic, and very less paper still. If you are interested, you are always welcome, and any type of findings will be having value, and it's not only value to the researcher, but also to the practitioner. So, I would constantly, as I have done before as well, I have told you that you need to really think of who would be using your work. Could you quickly make it to the market? Same like new product development, your idea should really get into the market quickly. Although we know all academics needs to survive by producing good research paper. Okay, that is our bread and butter, but we need to really think of what do we do with that. Does it make sense to the society, in this case small and medium sized enterprises, or any stakeholders across the supply chain including policymaker? Could we really tell our MP, look, this is happening, could we help to do by setting a legislation, a policy, so that everybody follow? Okay, unless we say to the users, okay, consumer, to stop using plastic, nothing can really stop using plastic, nothing can stop us. Okay, in the UK, government has taken a legislation, you cannot, no retailer, no shopkeeper can use plastic, okay, and cannot give plastic free of cost, to the customer. Customer has to buy it, and it is 5 pence, say 5 rupees plus per plastic bag. So, when they impose that, things got totally changed, and plastic uses has reduced 90-95%. Okay, so you can well see, and it's not 5p is the thing. People got the message clearly, and that sort of drastic step policymakers could really take it. So, policymaker has a strong role here. So, that's the thing we can really see it. So, we can form a research question, very good research question, what has a very strong practical implication, and we can develop a methodology from our first principle, and we need to really convince, in order to write a research paper, our reviewers, to start with editor of the journal and then the reviewers, and then you address it and your paper gets published. But your responsibility comes next. Does it make sense to the user? Who would be using it? Then what is your next step with that paper? Okay, making presentation not to the researchers alone, it needs to really go to the companies, policymakers, and then it works. It takes time, but still it works in this way. So, we need to really have different tier of approach to allow the people to listen our voice. But first of all, we need to really know that we are dealing with the right problem and in a right way, and our findings are right and validated. We discussed before the lecture that how do we really validate it. It's daunting. Let's move on. Let me tell you few case studies, keeping those questions in in mind. Okay, these questions are very simple, very first principle, that we understand that there are few constructs being agreed, which helps, which looks fine to us. So, we need to really look at, does it make sense in reality. So, we go to company, we sit down with them, we talk to them, we try to really find out that yes, it works or it does not work, it makes sense or does not make sense. Okay. So, we did similar approach. We approached a company. This company is a surgical kit manufacturer. Okay. You cannot, if you Google them using that name, you won't get it, because I have not used the right name, but this is a real company. Okay. So, as to really keep the confidentiality. Okay. I can't tell you the name of the company, but this company is a real company. This company has slightly bigger than small and medium sized companies, okay, around 300 employees, and they have a bit higher turnover than the typical small and medium sized enterprises, okay, which their turnover is more than 200 million pound. Okay. A typical SMEs would be less than 500 million. Of big companies, their business is growing, but they have huge competition also. Predominantly they have, by name you can understand that they produce surgical kit. Okay. So, a surgeon before surgery need a kit, and they are quite customized. So, every surgery will have their customized thing, but it needs to be really made ready, and they would be using it. And again, you can well understand they are sterilized and all. So, manufacturing process is quite high tech, if you like. Assembly is easy, and you can well see that this is the warehouse where they keep the finished product. Okay. So, that is their business. They have mainly two types of customers. Okay. National Health Services in the UK, the largest, one of the largest private sector company across the world. Okay. Employ close to 3 million people. Okay. They come within first 5 public sector company in the employee number, and very state of art benchmark public healthcare system. Still in Britain, healthcare is predominantly given through National Health Services. They have many issues and challenges. Okay. You have to really serve in a very efficient way, but there are many responsive requirement. Okay. So, they have state of art facilities, healthcare facilities, and that, and healthcare is still in the public sector. Okay. Like railway and bus services and all in the private sector. So, education and health in Britain is still public. Okay. So, in our country it is other way around. Many core sector is in public sector, but many both health and education education has also taken a private part of it. I do not know exactly the percentage. Okay. So, coming back to the case study, two type of customer, National Health Services and European distributor. 25% of their business is through European distributor, and 75% is National Health Services. 25% European distributor customer, and their demand is quite fixed, and so the business is pull type. So, they give a specific order specification, and according to the order they manufacture it. Easy, very efficient. They don't, their supply chain is quite efficient. So, they have a different supply chain for it. National Health Service only gives 48 hours lead time to deliver a product, and they keep very competitive, no long term relationship. So, anybody ready to supply, they will buy from them, okay, given the quality matching. So, on anticipation of customers demand in a sort of push type of supply chain, they manufacture and keep it ready for distribution. These are the things. So, this warehouse is keeping most of the product which has not been ordered, but ready to go if there is a demand. So, what happened? Because of the forecasting error and all, 50% of the product will not be sold. So, they would be keeping for couple of years, and then they would be dismantling it. That is the process, the way it works, because they have to really do it. If they are not able to really do it, others will do it. So, in order to really enhance their economic performance, they do it, although it is not environment friendly. Higher inventory is not environment friendly. Okay. So, it is a sterilized product. So, after a couple of years the sterilization will go, they have to dismantle it. Okay. They have to take it to the back to the supply chain, that will increase their raw material inventory, which is a bit less expensive, but they are handling it. So, what is happening? The system is quite inefficient, economically also not favorable for them. So, part of the cost they are, because in industry everybody is doing that. So, they are still competitive, but part of the cost customers is also carrying. Now, if we say that NHS has a problem, is a public money, we need to bring efficiency, people are, and any government in Britain will be driven by the NHS performance, how much money is budgeted for NHS and that, because it is healthcare, is very important part of it. So, they are looking for efficiency. If NHS look into that factor, NHS could really save a lot, and it is, I am talking about surgical kit only, which could be a peanut compared to the cost they incur, but there are other equipment, other drug and supplies and the disposals that they are handling it. I am sure similar problem would be there as well. So, there is a huge issues to really deal with. Okay. And if you look into the supply side, most of the 80% of their raw material comes from China. Okay. This company did not work much to develop supplier locally, because they get cheaply from China, they get it, but there is a bit of issue related to quality and risk, because China is far off, there might be delay. So, to combat that problem, what they do, they keep huge inventory. Again, this is consuming money as well as space, and again that means what is happening, the supply chain cost becoming higher, efficiency is going to address the responsiveness. So, the things that we studied earlier, make sense. So, if we look into on that take make model, we can see that these are the major area where there is a scope of improvement. Okay. So, material selection, supplier selection in the supply side, upstream side. So, they need to really look for local supplier, developing local supplier, so as to have a real time supplies, okay, so that they can deal with it very locally, and their logistics, inbound logistics cost would be lower, okay, carbon footprint would be lower of the supply chain as a whole, and adopting lean practices. That means what they are having, that's in the finished product stage, they are having huge inventory, they need to really think of reducing it, okay, and combining with the outbound logistics, and developing a long term relationship with the with their customers. So, the way we intended to solve their problem is, in one side, understanding the forecasting properly, but because if you cannot really develop a good customer relationship here, you need to really move from push type of things to pull, okay, in order to improve that. So, what happened, because it is surgical kit and it is being customized in line with the surgical requirement, and NHS developed the surgical rota at least 2 months prior to the surgery. So, they have something, some document that they could really share with their suppliers, so as to really develop a pull type of things. So, we worked with NHS procurement, try to really understand their process, how they really get the demand and how they really get into the procurement. So, looking into possibility of developing long term relationship with the first tier suppliers, okay, and working with the supplier to develop a proper model where the supplier selection would be done on the basis of not only economic part of it, but also the other environmental and social part. And then we get a better model and develop a list of the long term suppliers with long term relationship, and things work better. So, that is the way we made the transformation, and it worked out very well. and supply chain cost, inventory cost substantially reduced for these companies. Okay. And one of the questions they came to us to work on, they did not come to us to really say that okay, adopt circular economy within our system. They wanted to really, they observed that their business growth is almost 50%. Okay. So, in order to really cope up with it, their warehouse size would be should be larger, but they do not have any space. They can't really increase it. So, they came to us to really get the suggestion. So, we told okay, we like to really analyze your problem very holistically. We came out with it, that's the way we should really go. You do not need to really change anything. Only thing you need to reduce your finished product inventory. How could you really do that? And we got into holistic solution to that, which is addressing the circular economy issues and challenges, okay, across take, make, distribute, use and recover. Okay, makes sense. So, we have I think I can discuss one more case with you. Are you okay with it? A totally different thing. Okay, quickly I will not be as elaborative as before, but try to really give you two different examples quickly on how the circular economy makes sense for them, and then we will start. I will get you a few questions that you would be working on in this afternoon, okay, in order to understand the topic much closer using the example case studies that you are undertaking. That makes sense. So, this is again a set of anonymous company, East Midland Metrology Limited. I have named it, it has a defined name, and again it is a real company. Okay. So, again I have to really quickly give you a bit of history. They are gauge manufacturer, calibrator also, but they are in the railway industry. If you look at the earlier company was in the central part of England, we call West Midland, okay, where I belong to as well, and this is in the East Midland, which is, you might have heard of the place called Derby, okay, which is famous for Rolls Royce. Okay, Rolls Royce is best there. So, they have a huge transport sector in the East Midland. So, company like Rolls Royce in aerospace industry, okay, Toyota in automotive industry, East Midland Train and Bombardier are two major company of manufacturing railway compartment and all the equipment, machineries, as well as rail itself, okay, railway bogies and other things, compartment and all sort of things they manufacture. Okay, they have all the supply chain. So, this company manufacture and calibrate gauges for the operations mainly. So, their job is not with the manufacturer OEMs, the company I have just uttered, but their work is related to the workshop who will keep this railway operation intact. So, all this workshop, there are numerous workshops, and Britain is well connected through railway network, okay, and Britain has contributed a lot across the world, including Africa, Asia, including India, for developing railway network. Okay, they have technological expertise. So, huge contribution to the GDP as well as across the world in a different way. So, they have in order to maintain that railway operation across the country, they have many workshops, okay, across the country, and they are more in the southern part of England than the northern and east and west because of geographical location, okay, because it is more flat in the southern part and then in the western part as well as northern part it is more mountains. Okay. So, good network. So, good workshop all across. So, what happened, how the business work, that there would be requirement of the gauges to maintain the flawless operations of railway. Okay. So, they constantly measures various things and using the gauges, and those gauges would require to be calibrated quite often. And these companies, there are several companies in the supply chain who does that. They not only manufacture gauge, they also calibrate it. and calibration is a major part of their business. And again, within the calibration, the delivery time to the workshop, okay, is a major critical success factor for them in order to really win the competitive bids. Okay. So, they say 30% cost is within the logistics part of it. How it works? That workshop will through their online system or physically calling a particular company, they will tell that one gauge required to be calibrated. And generally industry specification is within 5 days you have to collect it from the workshop, fix it, calibrate it I mean, and then return it to them. Okay? And there is a benchmark 5 days time for doing it. So, this company is not able to beat that, although there is no problem in the quality of calibration, but this company is generally in average making 7 days to do that. So, there is a chance that they will lose business. Okay. Although they for a couple of contract they would convince their customers, a specific workshop, okay, we will do it. Well, they in several times they miss that target, they will be wiped off. Okay. So, they are trying to fix that problem and they came to us to get help from. Okay. So, again we need to really analyze the problem, and again we did not go through the circular economy way, rather we are retrospectively I am trying to really convince the way we have given them the solution looks like circular economy. Okay. So, what happened, we looked into in a similar way in that part of it. So, in order to really get their business done, what happened, they have 2 vehicles, they own 2 vehicles and they have a couple of drivers. Okay. So, they are trained, they go there, they collect it, somebody will set it off, make it proper, calibrate it, and then they will return that. But what happened, they observed the cost is quite erratic, they do not know whether they are economically better, whether there is a savings for this. Okay. They are more proactive, okay, get it done, see what is the cost, and over the period they have incurred cost, but they do not know whether this is high, low, and that nobody share that within their consortium in their industry. And what happened, another thing they observed, that their drivers are busy every day, 7 days, more than 14 hours, and they are sure that they are not optimizing the schedule properly. So, we mainly work towards optimizing their route. Okay. It is a simple or complex logistics optimization problem, and we came out with the solution where we observed we can clearly determine the cost. Okay. We use telematic system, okay, and GIS, geographical information system, combine these two, and that would be there in the vehicle, and their route would be optimized. So, it would be navigated, and all sort of behavioral things of the operator would be also noted, so that you know that where they are going, and that it's not for, and if they need some education in terms of the way they should drive, and that, and it reduced accident, it reduced cost, even we found that we are not really going more than 8 hours in a day, that to 6 days in a week. Okay. And we included third party logistics provider as well. Okay. Even our suggestion was get rid of everything, use third party only, but they thought it would be too much to really do it. There might be a bit of implications, they have to sack all these driver, they didn't, and they have these 2 vehicle, if they sell it, it will not really be very effective. So, they did not take that, but you can well see the solution. Now, logistics optimization will reduce your carbon footprint, we have seen it substantially, and it is economically advantageous. Okay. And addressing the employees, these drivers are their employees. So, they are not really working 14 hours, although they get overtime and that, but this is a this is not a motivating factor for them. So, you can give them the same salary which they were earning for 14 hours, but they are working 8 hours only. So, they are better off, they are more productive And so, you can well see in one hand you are achieving economic performance, you are achieving the social performance as well as environmental performance, reduction of carbon footprint. So, that is the way we address it. Last example, last case study, reconditioning engine. I am sure that we all are aware that there is a big supply chain in the automotive industry who are remanufacturing engines. So, I think in all automotive manufacturing sector that it is not economically feasible after the warranty period to go to the original equipment manufacturer to get the engine repaired. It is very expensive. So, similar to India, in the UK also there is a big supply chain of small workshop, okay, which can handle 10, 12, 20 engine remanufacturing. Remanufacturing is a regenerative process in any ways, isn't it? Okay, we discuss about that. So, we are extending life of the product. Okay. So, now what happened, this company works with big bus and rail operators. Okay. They use Volvo and they remanufacture, refurbish Volvo, Mercedes-Benz as well as big engines like it could be Toyota, okay, Honda, and this type of engines they really deal with it. So, what happened, this company keep around 10, 20 engine ready. So, any bus operator as well as train operator, if there is a failure, they will immediately report to them, and if there is engine ready in line with the similar specification, this would be immediately replaced. Okay. Then the shutdown period, breakdown period would be much less, but sometimes it happens that they do not have this engine ready. So, then what will happen? So, they will the particular bus or the rail will wait and they will take few hours or few days to fix it, and then that will be on service again. So, that is the way things work. Now, it happens that if you look at, there are loads of dissatisfaction across the supply chain. Dissatisfaction in terms of, for the bus operator, their shutdown period is, breakdown period is high. The public is not getting proper services. So, there is a huge disappointment and it is expensive as well. Now, if you look into from the small and medium sized enterprises perspective, they do not have any long term relationship with the supplier. So, as and when required they get this thing, and there is a competition. So, they do not have any assurance. On anticipation, they keep some engines ready, but in many cases, most of the cases it will not match. So, they have to be always reactive. Okay. Another problem they have, that when the engines are refurbished and set into the particular bus, they give warranty for 1 year, but in many cases that engine broke down within that warranty period, and then they have to fix it, and they complain that the bus operator is not really very attentive to the engine performance. So, because it is warranty period and that, but what they are forgetting, it is a win-win situation or it is a lose-lose situation. If the engine breaks down, it is a problem for them, their customers are not getting satisfied, they are losing money, and it is a problem for us because we have to fix it. So, they came out with a technology through which they would be able to monitor by sitting in their workshop that how their engine is performing, and they would get an alarm much before it gets breakdown, and then accordingly the whole thing is developing a long term relationship with the customers. And when you have a long term relationship, you are taking care of say 5-6 engine. It is a concept of from manufacturing to moving into servitization. Okay. You are giving services. Okay. You are not really changing the product, you are not selling the product, you are selling the services of keeping the engine intact. You are developing a long term relationship, and while these engines belong to the original equipment manufacturer, but they are taking care of them all through the life for a certain period by monitoring it in a very real time basis. So, before it gets breakdown, they are replacing it, they are taking that for routine maintenance. Okay, so that there is a less failure and sometimes zero failure. So, you can again you see that the same thing could be really be looked at. So, that sort of part could be really addressed, okay, for these companies. So, you can well see that these three examples I try to really explain to you how companies could really take the advantage of circular economy concept. Okay. In one hand, they are achieving economic performance, social performance, and the environmental performance. Okay. So, it is a bit of awareness how the company can really look into symptom and try to really resolve it, okay, addressing all these issues. Although for these three cases we have not really started the analyzing the problem using the circular economy concept, but retrospectively we could really defend that the way the solution is coming is through the circular economy concept. So, adoption of the circular economy concept is beneficial to all the stakeholders. It is not really expensive if you look into the life cycle bit of it, similar to the other sustainability approach that we have discussed before. So, move into the work that I expect you to undertake in order to understand the topic a bit clearly. Okay. So, what you look at, the company you are working on, look into take, make, distribute, use and recover bit of it, all these 5 phases or stages within that. So, try to really relate it, what are they really currently doing, okay? What are the issues and challenges on those 5 part of it. Okay. Is there any best practice you can think of? Okay. They might be adopting it, they might be adopting it, or if you have a hypothetical case, could you really think of that could be the best practice. Okay. Again, if you are doing a real time research, you have to go and ask and find out. So, then what innovation you suggest in above areas to enhance sustainability performance? Okay. Always think of economic, environmental and social aspect. Keep the examples that I have given to you in mind. Okay. I try to really be slow and very elaborative, but if you have any further question, I can answer to that. And the role of all the stakeholders, SMEs, OEM, policymakers, researchers, what are our role that we need to really perform to adopt circular economy concept within small and medium sized enterprises. Okay. Similarly, we look into the other part of it, make and distribute, use, okay, and the recover. So, we try to really develop a good understanding of what this concept, what this philosophy makes within your companies. Okay. That would be our work while we come back from lunch, and I would that is a group exercise outcome. We will collate those outcomes and see that what we got. We undertook a workshop within small and medium sized enterprises in the UK under our low carbon small and medium sized enterprises project, the brochure flyers that I have given to you earlier. Okay, this is one of the workshops within that project, and we got good responses. I will share that with you, what we got, what they say. Okay. And we did brainstorming, a group exercise, and what they are coming out, what are the answer to those. Okay. So, other thing we did, again something that you might be, Abhishek might be enjoying, the question that you asked me earlier. So, if you look at this diagram, we try to really understand take, make, distribute, use and recover, how are they really connected to economic, environmental performance and social performance. Okay. We developed several hypotheses, 15 hypotheses. You can see that each is connected to 3. Okay. So, we try to really test that, and we have a bit of smaller sample, and it is not we did not publish it, we did not really use it to present it somewhere. We try to really experimentally look at, because these companies, it was around 40 companies whom we currently we are working under that low carbon project. Okay. And we have rather done that through more on the interview process, not sending a questionnaire or getting responses and that. Okay. And we scored them by taking their qualitative comments. So, these are the limitation of the study, but we did statistical analysis, descriptive statistics as well as structure equation modeling. We use AMOS software, perhaps for a smaller sample AMOS is not right, but with that limitation we found something. Through these hypotheses, I quickly give you example. We try to really see that what is the perception of the SMEs managers about whether tech is currently contributing, the tech practice. Okay, we know tech means all the procurement part of it, whether it contributes to economic performance, environmental performance and social performance. Okay. And you remember that what is economic performance, what is environmental performance, what is social performance, isn't it? Like business performance, productivity, all sort of things, throughput. Environmental performance is connected to carbon footprint, energy consumption, okay, all sort of waste reduction, and this social performance is the job creation, well-being, accident, as much objective as possible. Okay. So, we try to really see that whether the sourcing part, how are they really connected, how make is connected, how distribute is connected, and that. See the results, and everything was checked. Okay. They are compliance as well. So, have a look. If you see that where you get the higher value, okay, it says that make, the manufacturing part of it, production part of it is contributing to all these performance very positive way, high value. Okay. But if you look at, and the use has also has high value. So, these two are, as per their perception, as per their responses, make and use are correlated to that. That means they affect positively to your performance. Okay, whatever practice you are doing. And remember, these are a UK company, we did not do any study in India. Tech part is only giving you the economic performance. They say that the practice, what they are doing in the tech part, that means procurement, is not really contributing to environmental performance and social performance. It is a bit scary. That means UK SMEs are not really selecting their material and supplier to enhance environmental and social performance. Okay. So, that means if I am looking the problem from policymakers perspective, I need to really do something. So, I need to really tell SMEs to adopt that. So, how do you really do that? So, they are trying to really reduce cost as much as possible in their procurement. So, they might be doing some less environmental procedure practices and all. So, you have to really be very careful. Distribute, have a look, only distribute also. So, all the distribute means inbound and outbound, mainly outbound logistics as we considered here, warehouse and that. So, they are economically focused, not much environmental and social bit of it. Use part of it is quite good connected to that. So, after sale services and reuse and other things are okay. Okay. Recover is also is connected to recover. They would be doing recover if it is economically viable. Okay. So, that is the thing. So, there is a huge scope of improving the reverse logistics. So, if I conclude for the UK setup company, and which is a good sample of manufacturing company in the Midlands. Midland has more manufacturing than elsewhere. So, UK's manufacturing is a behind of adopting circular economy, that I could interpret. Okay. So, you can well see a bit flavor of how do you do the research, okay, how do you really interpret the data, but still the missing is, you may be asking that what question I ask in order to really get that. Yes, I can share that. Okay. How this question was processed? It is, as I told, SPSS using structure equation modeling. Okay. I am sure that this is not a rocket science to really see that how it is. Okay. All the conformities tests have been taken, CFA, EFA and all sort of thing. So, that is the thing I wanted to really share with you. Now, floor is open to you. Any question?
Sir, the process we are using is the structural equation modeling and AHP.
No, not AHP, structure equation modeling. So, well, you have a hypothesis, you can't use AHP. You need to have statistical approach. You can have factor analysis. It is a factor analysis only. You are checking the correlation. So, structure equation modeling is another method. Yeah. So, using AMOS. Yeah. But there might be other way, and you might get different result through that. I have told you the limitation. Yeah. Anything, Abhishek? Any comments? Sorry. No. Please go on.
Sir, I have questions regarding the circular economy. So, how the circular economy is different with the closed loop supply chain management or the reverse supply chain management? Because it's very similar way. It's like a
very correct. To me, it's another customized version of sustainability, analysis. Okay, but it is a bit deep rooted. As we discussed, that it should be in at least couple of levels. It's a multi levels, multi perspectives, multidisciplinary. Okay, you need to really take society along. So, although you may look from one stakeholder's perspective, but it covers every aspect of it. Remember, we discussed about the micro level, which is enterprise level, meso level, which is all the interconnected activities, okay, and it's a macro level, is the city, region, country, and countries, okay, continent maybe. So, it's quite integrated, quite multi-level, multidisciplinary, and perhaps and the another bit of is the innovation that you are promoting to integrate those. So, while you talk about any enablers to adopt circular economy, you need to really think of that aspect. So, what is the positive and negative impact of your enabling practices to adopt circular economy in the other part of that. So, if your waste management, as for example, if your waste management practices is increasing the landfill, but it is decreasing your contribution, your economic performance, or even your factory environmental performance, but still you cannot really do it. That means you cannot use a material, raw material, which is not regenerative. So, like as for example, your packaging material ideally should not be made from single use plastic. If you are doing it, you are not using going through the circular economy things. You can say, okay, I am handling it, okay, I am not really throwing it, mixing it up. I have a system that all the plastic would be collected in a specific place, but no, you do not know how it is being really handled subsequently. So, your circular economy adoption is not really proper. So, Circular economy is more holistic than the traditional sustainability performance measurement model or sustainability performance measurement framework or philosophy. So, it is more holistic and newer, okay, but it has loads of similarity, as you said, as you have seen earlier. Okay.
Sir, can the circular economy concept can be used in the oil industry and the agriculture industry? Because
Yeah, everywhere. You can well see that, you know, it's basically very clear 5 stages. Okay, it consists of take, make, distribute, use and recover.
But in case of the oil industry, at the end of the day, the product like petrol and those things that they have exhausted in the, and we can use at the end stage, we can after then, how we recover these things in the concept of circular economy?
Yeah, because energy you need to use it. Okay, you are using energy. First of all, that you need to really look at that how do you reduce this. Okay. The other aspect of the energy is use renewable sources of energy, okay, not fossil fuel. So you that's the first part of it. You take as less as possible. Now you use it efficiently, okay, so that you don't lose much. So then you use it for conversion of raw material to the finished product. Even if you look into the oil industry, a typical oil refinery, okay, you are taking out the crude and then having different component of oil and it is going to the industry for use. Okay. Then what happened? You transform the energy, okay, from chemical energy to thermal energy, electrical energy or combination of that. You have this. So, you still get something that is still lying with you. Okay. So, that could be char, it goes to the fertilizer and or so. So, it needs to be really in this way. So, you need to find out what are the waste. To my knowledge that sludge is a major issue in the oil industry, they are trying to really handle that properly. Okay. And even most of the oil, crude oil products are being used. Okay. The last component of crude oil is bitumen, which is being used for road construction. Now, they are trying to really replace some of the bitumen through plastic. Okay, that could really give a equal stand. People are doing research on that. But generally, oil, fossil fuel is quite well organized in the regenerative way. So, every component we use it, but there are inefficiencies across. So, technical people, chemical engineer would be able to tell much better than me, but there are scope for improving even in the fossil fuel supply chain. But I would say for circular economy, we need to really reduce our dependencies on fossil fuel. So, that is why through legislation across the world, it has been really followed that 20% of the energy of any power plant, any power industry including oil should come from renewable sources. And if they are not able to do it, they have to offset, okay, offset their carbon footprint. How are they really doing? By investing in corporate social responsibility. So, big companies, oil, power, okay, sector, they have to really spend huge amount of money in corporate social responsibility. Certain percentage of profit is going there. So, that is the way they are tackling it, and that is the role policymaker are playing in a very international way. So, internationally all the countries, okay, environmental ministry needs to really report that what are they really doing. Okay, makes sense? Yeah. Any quick question before we break for lunch? Yeah. So, if you do not have any question, thank you very much for your attention, and we will keep working on those questions. Okay. How within our company circular economy could be adopted. Okay. We might need to really do a bit assumptions, okay. But we would be coming out with a good understanding of how circular economy could be adopted within the small and medium sized enterprises supply chain. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. I will see you after lunch. Thank you.